Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. WWE didn't shy away from having segments about relationships, which wouldn't go well in the current era. Recently, Nick Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler, explained why he was involved in so many kissing segments, as the management wanted to reward him. Dolph Ziggler was in an on-screen relationship with several notable female stars in the Stanford-based promotion, like Vicky Guerrero, AJ Lee, and Lana, to name a few. The show-off got the ladies and ruled the men's division as the champion. However, some of the segments weren't suited for a family-friendly audience, and Ziggler was aware of it. In an appearance on A's IGT with Chris Van Vliet, Nemeth revealed how making out with other stars on television was Vince McMahon's way of rewarding him for his work as a performer. Nemeth further revealed how he and Lee went to the extent that the management demanded, which turned out to be gross. Earlier this year, AJ Lee made her long-awaited return to the Stanford-based promotion and attacked Becky Lynch on WWE SmackDown in Chicago. This led to a mixed tag team match between Lee and CM Punk against Lynch and Seth Rollins in Indiana at WWE WrestlePalooza 2025. After Lee and Punk won the match, the Second City Saint focused on getting another title shot against the Visionaries World Heavyweight Championship. Meanwhile, AJ Lee went on a hiatus from WWE's weekly product and could return in the coming weeks. Akanch is a WWE news writer and sportskeeda. After getting hooked on professional wrestling in 2008 watching WWE and TNA, he found himself admiring the work ethic and passion of the wrestlers for their craft, the business, and the industry as a whole. With a postgraduate degree in writing and currently pursuing a master's degree in communication, Akanch's knack for writing and love of pro wrestling eventually led him to SK 7 years ago, before he found a permanent place in the division in 2021. Initially writing SEO content and transitioning to news in April 2022. He is committed to producing detailed, factual, and unbiased reports free of opinion, which will resonate with both long-term and newer fans. When not writing about pro wrestling, Akanch is engaged in the dynamic worlds of pop culture, anime, and Fortnite. In late 2012 and into 2013, AJ Lee and Dolph Ziggler were central figures in WWE's storylines. AJ, the feisty geek goddess, was involved in romantic angles with several male superstars, from Daniel Bryan to CM Punk to Ziggler himself. Ziggler, known for his athleticism and showmanship as the show-off, had long felt he wasn't quite being rewarded with the biggest title pushes he imagined he deserved. Instead, what he got was, well, this: romantic on-screen segments with top female talent. In his words, it was Vince McMahon. Likes my work but doesn't think I should be world champion. But my reward is to be like, he gets chicks or something. Then came the kicker. Ziggler revealed in an interview that management, via Vince, instructed him to make his kissing segment with AJ as gross as possible. He said, with AJ Lee too, he wanted like gross. And I'm like, I'll give you gross, brother. We are going into where he said this. We're going to make them come in the back and go, take back a notch. The first time he was like, that's exactly right. And then we got, a couple of weeks later, where we got really gross. And then he was like, take it down a notch. At first glance, it's a weird footnote in wrestling history. A top-tier talent being rewarded not with a title shot, but with the storyline privilege of making out on live television. But digging deeper, it reveals a lot about how this business operates. Ziggler believed he was doing the work, delivering matches, putting on shows. Yet the payoff was not a world title, but a romantic storyline. He perceived that the kiss segment was a way to recognize him, but also to keep him from actually reaching the top. It's a commentary on how performance may be interpreted through the lens of character value, rather than pure in-ring skill. The reward here is a kiss, scripted on camera, with all the trappings of backstage crew, lighting rigs, and discomfort. Ziggler acknowledges that this is not real life. By the way, the reward, it's not like real-life kissing. There are cameras and everyone's there, and everyone's uncomfortable. Everybody's dating somebody else, and everyone's standing there, and you're like, this is the worst thing ever. Thus, the reward becomes performative, somewhat humiliating, and not necessarily a reward you choose for yourself away from the camera. The instruction to make the kiss gross suggests a desire for edginess, shock value. It also reveals the hierarchy, a direction from on high, Vince/creative, to execute something that toes the fine line between entertainment and discomfort. Ziegler says they eventually went too far, and even Vince said, take it down a notch. That moment shows the tension between pushing boundaries and retaining something watchable/acceptable. What the audience sees is superstar kisses female partner, drama ensues. Behind the scenes, the performer is thinking, this is my reward, and I feel silly. The artifice of wrestling is laid bare when a wrestler himself says the reward wasn't a title, but you made out. Och, I guess it's all right. AJ Lee's role in this story is also compelling. A female performer placed in multiple romantic angles, used in plots beyond her in-ring ability, and part of a reward system for male talent. The segment implicitly positions the male performer as being rewarded by Valentine's-type content, while the female performer is performing the reward. It raises questions about how female talent were utilized and perceived during that era. Because of its bizarre honesty, Ziegler's willingness to talk openly about what seemed like a strange backstage dynamic gives us a peek behind the curtain, and that alone makes the moment memorable. Because it's awkward and thus human. The idea that a reward is something that feels awkward, uncomfortable, and contrived is inherently amusing. Wrestlers are used to being ridiculous, but rarely is a reward acknowledged as such. Because it reflects a transitional era in WWE. The early 2010s were a time of change. The PG era, evolving women's division, more mainstream-friendly storylines. This moment sits right on the boundary of shock light, while still being mainstream. Because it underscores the blurred lines between character and performer. Ziegler is playing the show-off. AG is playing the geek goddess/man-eater. But here the performer and the character overlap. Ziegler in real life felt the reward was superficial, and the audience gets that hint. For performers, it suggests wrestling is not just about matches, but about how your character is used, including non-wrestling segments. Sometimes the biggest reward may not feel like one. For creative teams, it highlights how reward systems, even implicit ones, affect performer morale. Giving a performer a storyline kiss instead of a title might signal something, whether intended or not. For fans, it underscores the need to view wrestling as layered entertainment, where the spectacle often masks deeper backstage realities. For gender dynamics, it shines a light on how female talent were often used as payoff or reward rather than purely for athletic or storyline function, especially in previous eras. So yes, the line "I'll give you gross" stands out not just for its comic tone, but because it encapsulates a strange moment in the business of performance, the moment where reward becomes spectacle. The reward becomes awkward. The reward becomes a camera-lit kiss with a colleague that you hoped would signal success, but also silently says, you're not holding the top prize. In the end, the segment is a microcosm of wrestling's dualities. Performer vis character, spectacle vis authenticity, reward vis recognition. And because Ziegler himself laid it bare, we get to see the machinery behind the magic for a moment.